we've been talking about primary and secondary succession. This activity will help you to practice putting these steps into the correct order, and it will also help you to differentiate or decide what the difference is by classifying these as either primary or secondary. So we're going to start off by writing not really a definition, but just how you can identify the differences between primary and secondary succession. Okay, so here is primary starts with bare rock, no soil. Secondary starts with soil. Please remember to put your heading in the top right corner. Now we're going to tear off the back 2 pages, and if you'll tear them off one at a time, the staple is more likely to stay with the rest of the pages that you're turning in. If you tear them off both at the same time, the staple sometimes stays with this part. So this is the part you're going to turn in. This is the part we're going to cut up. Now, notice we have 4 different scenarios that we're going to look at. Pond succession, a desert succession, forest succession, and a grassland succession. When you're finished gluing them, you're going to go back and circle either primary or secondary based on which example you think it is. These are not in the same order as this, although pond is at the beginning. We're going to go through and we're going to label which ones these go with. So this goes with the pond, and we're going to do that together. This one, at first you might think is desert, but when you look over here and you see this one, you'll realize this is the desert. This is the forest. And that means by default, this must be the grassland. And I'm going to encourage you, only cut out one section of these at a time and glue them down. Otherwise, you're going to get everything mixed up. They do have letters on the descriptors and numbers on the top. That's because you're going to enter these in to a Google form so that I can see how you did. I also want you to put these in your journal, and I don't want them glued all together. So we're going to start by cutting out these 8 squares. You're going to cut in between the picture because this picture may or may not go with this descriptor. Okay, so you're going to cut out 4 pictures and 4 descriptors for the pond. So we're going to get those right quick. And I've already got them cut out. I'm just going to put them in the order that they were originally on your page. All right. And I went ahead and colored in where the water is. You don't have to color it in, but I just wanted you to realize that top layer is water. The dark black is the sediment that's filling in the pond until it gets to be filled with land, not a pond anymore. And that process actually has a special name, and it's called eutrophication. Eutrophication. Please write that down. All right. Now, when we look at our pond, we're going to do the pictures first. Which one has the most water is going to go first, and it happens to be number 1. We're going to glue it right there. The next one will have a little bit more of this black soil that has formed from dead plants falling to the bottom and filling in, and so picture number 3 is going to be next. See how much more black we have there, more rich soil. And then picture 4 would follow. And then finally, we don't have a pond anymore. We now have a different ecosystem. It is now turned into a grassland or a forest or whatever we see there. Now we're going to find the descriptors. So when we look at this one, I just happened to notice this one says pond completely filled in. So I'm going to put that one here, but I'm going to go ahead and read the rest. The bushes shade out the grass. The trees overgrow the bushes. Larger land animals are present, such as deer, squirrels, etc. If I were to pick something for number 1, it would probably be C. Young pond, few plants, it's small in size, there's a variety of small organisms present. The bottom of the pond has very little sediment. The soil is the black layer that's being added, so it's very little there. These are kind of confusing, so I'm going to read them both. Grasses and other small land plants begin to grow on the dry edges. There's more soil. Small land animals such as mice, rabbits, etc. are starting to move into the area. Or greater variety of plants, large-sized plants are growing. A layer of sediment is thicker due to the buildup of dead organisms, and soil has washed into the pond. And so the only one that shows the dried edges is this one. So I'm going to put A over there and B here. Now when you enter it on your Google form, you're going to put 1C, 3B, 4A, 2D, and you're going to separate those by commas. Okay? So 1C, comma, 3B, comma, 4A, comma, 2D. That's how you'll enter it. Then you're going to decide, is this an example of primary succession or secondary succession? Did we start with bare rock and no soil, or did we start with soil? When we look down here, we had soil. So this is an example of secondary succession. Okay? Now you are going to do the remainder of these, and if you want to make it to where you can actually see desert, you might trim off the white space at the top of these before you glue them in. That way you can actually see the word desert succession if you trim off the top of each one of those. Alright, once you get it finished, you're going to enter all of your results into the Google form on Google Classroom, and then I will tell you where to glue it in your journal. Because there is a section about pond succession or eutrophication in our textbook, we're going to cut this section out and glue it onto page 87, and then we'll cut desert succession out and glue it onto 88, and we'll glue forest to 89 and grassland to 90.